Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Lead Podcast, where it's our intention to develop the next generation of future hospitality industry leaders. So excited to have Amy and Troy here today to have a really candid, honest, vulnerable conversation around path to leadership. And we're going to start on the conversation of mentorship. Before we get into it, great to see you, Amy.
Great to see you as always, Mr. Rolfe. And I'm excited to introduce Troy Hooper. He is a friend of mine in the industry, a great colleague, and a leader that so many of us look up to and go to for advice and mentorship. So, Troy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm just a busboy that got a CEO title somehow. I don't know how I got here, but yeah, 34 years will be in this industry this year. And yeah, grew up on this construction site of a bar, restaurant, or nightclub. My dad had a couple of construction companies and one focused on that area. So I've been here the whole time. I was a chef, restaurant manager. I'm now a restaurant owner, multi-unit restaurant franchisee, lots of things in the background there, but basically live, breathe everything restaurant that you can imagine my entire life.
I love that. So, give us a little snippet of what Pepper Lunch is, because I think it's fabulous. And I see your fast casual top 100 award behind you, too.
It is. Yeah. So Pepper Lunch is a 553 unit fast casual Asian Japanese concept. We superheat a hot plate to 500 degrees and we put amazing protein rice and veg and give you six different sauce categories to choose from. You're in and out in 25 minutes for around 25 bucks or less. And we're in about 8 states here in the US today. We have 120 stores coming right now across the US, and we continue to grow organically around the world. And we're going to be adding a couple of countries over the next 2 years. So just on a growth trajectory, been around 31 years, been growing steadily ever since. But we've really hit the hockey stick moment right now for this brand, and we're taking it to the next level and hopefully blowing it up.
Wow. So, you started it when you were three. That's pretty fabulous.
How do you do that? Well, I only been here 3 years. I can't say that, but I am a part of
That's
the
phenomenal growth, though.
growth
Congrats.
model. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are definitely one of the faces of the brand, and anybody that I talk to raves about Pepper Lunch. So really, really cool, and congratulations. I know we've got a lot of lead listeners in today, and the topic that we were going to hit on is mentorship, and coming ready for it, and how you show up, and all the things. So, talk to us about, if you can just give us a quick example around what does mentorship look like to you, and also being a mentee, right? Both sides of it, but also why you think it's so important for emerging leaders to dig into that, because a lot of people still do not have mentors.
Yeah, I think everybody has mentors and they don't realize it, right? I don't think they understand there's an opportunity to get their hands and mind around what leadership looks like when it's trying to develop you or it's pouring into you, right? But I think mentorship in the sense that we're talking about today is really that intentional type of mentorship, asking for it, having a need, knowing where your opportunities, deficiencies, learning journey can go, and then seeking out those who have done that before you and are willing to give you that advice, that information, that path, that map ultimately to the next step and multiple steps beyond. And so, I always have had some kind of mentorship, but I don't think I always realized I was receiving it. And there's been some pops of moments in my career. I was like, oh wow, they're giving me a gift. They're here. They're trying to make me better. I listen and pay attention, Troy. But then as I got older in life, and I've said this kind of a few times just recently, I actually wish that I had been told and or engaged in this sort of active mentorship we'll talk about today much earlier in my career, because I've always been like I've got it. I'm going to climb this ladder, Mr. Confidence. I know what I need to know. And the reality is, you can always look back 5 years later and say, oh, wow, I am much more mature, much more informed, much more experienced, much better educated than I thought I knew it all then. And wow, do I really feel like I've come a long way. And so if you can stop now and look ahead for the next 2, 3, 5 years and say, wow, what if I could accelerate my education? What if I could accelerate my understanding? What if I could build a network of people who want to see me be successful, and what do I need to do to do that? And I've had over 1,000 employees in my career, and I've told every single one of them on day one, and I try to reinforce it as often as possible. that if you come to me and you have an ask, I will give to you what you're looking for. In other words, if you raise your hand, I will give you more than you're asking for. I will turn around and be available and really pour into your needs. But if you're just going to show up, clock in, do your thing, and clock out and go, that's okay too. That's on you. This may not be the thing you're looking to use to develop your personal self, your professional self, or anything. That's okay. I'm okay with that. But those who raise their hand are going to get my full and undivided attention. And I don't intend that everybody has to become a CEO in the restaurant industry. That's not going to happen. I am so proud that so many employees of mine over my career have become doctors and lawyers and just amazing human beings and done amazing things well beyond my dreams. But I know that they got a foundation of learning. I know they got a foundation of leadership, and I know they got some foundation of understanding the value of mentorship, and that helped them on their journey. And whether that was in hospitality or not, it was irrelevant to me. We're really pouring into the people here.
And I love it, and I can relate so much as just the importance of mentorship. One thing I'd love to go a little bit deeper on is the act of asking. I can remember I think I listened to a cassette from Zig Ziglar when I was about 22 and I was working for Anheuser-Busch. And Zig Ziglar, if anybody's out there old like me, knows it.
Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar. So and his twangy voice is like, gotta find a mentor. So I remember walking to my boss's boss at Anheuser-Busch in this beautiful office. He's like, "What do you want?" My hands are shaking. I said, I'd like you to be my mentor." At a different time back then, he said, "What the F does that mean?" And I said, "Well, let me explain to you." And he said, "What do you want? How can I help you?" And I built a lifetime friendship and it changed my career path because somebody was willing to invest in me, but it did take the emotional side to get over asking. Do you mind going a little bit deeper? Maybe either of you sharing when and how did you ask for your first mentors? How has somebody approached either of you? Where we might be able to share with the audience, they get over that hump of, the first thing, create the list. The second thing, go ask the list.
Yeah, so I think first have a goal, right? And that can be the next step, 2 steps, 20 steps. Have a series of goals. Know where it is you're trying to go, what you're trying to achieve. Step 1. Step 2, know that there's lots of stuff you don't know. And know that you don't even know what you don't know yet. You don't. There's a bunch of information you're not even aware exists. Also, know exactly what it is you don't know. Know what your strengths are. Know what the opportunities for information, education, specific experience might be. You need to get that experience. You need to get that information. You need multiple versions of the same perspective. You want to hear the same story from 5 leaders to kind of collate that data and find what resonates with you. So it's kind of 3 buckets. Have that information inside of you. Be ready when you make the ask. Then I got this amazing advice about 2012, 2013. Tell everyone you know what it is you're trying to achieve
Mm.
and be ready to ask for specific advice or information from people who have specific pieces of that puzzle for you. So, an example, um, you want to own your own multi-unit restaurant franchise one day, and today you work in the corporate office at a franchise or brand, but you're in that environment, you're doing a specific job. Maybe you're an ops, maybe you're a regional manager or something like that, right? Or a 5 store or 3 store manager, something like that, and you want to be on the other side of this equation eventually. So you need to find people who have done that. And guess what? Almost every single multi-unit or multi-brand franchisee in this universe started as either a busboy or a dishwasher. Period.
Or
It'll be
hostess.
host or hostess, right? Host or hostess. Okay. So we all started at the bottom. So they can remember that path. They can remember and look back at where they were and how they got from where you are to where they are, and they can help to start give you those pieces of information. Now, some people are more financial minded, some people are more operations minded, some people are more education minded. Some people are going to tell you to read a book, some people are going to tell you to watch this podcast. Whatever that advice is a piece of the puzzle. It is a stepping stone on that path. It's the yellow brick road. Sorry, family went and saw Wicked this weekend, so you know
Such a
it is just another cobble in the yellow brick road. But you have to be ready for the ask. So when somebody says to you, "Hey, okay, you want to do this? We've done that. That's a lot of information. There's a lot of steps between here and there. What can I help you with?" You need to turn that on them and say, what is the one thing that you learned or that was shared with you or your mentor gave to you that you think I need that I might not even know I need today? Let them tell you what their highest competency is, their highest area of interest is. They're going to give you more for free and faster and more over time if they're allowed to give you what they're good at, what they feel really confident in sharing with you. And you can get the financial from a couple of financial people, and you can get the HR, human, cultural from somebody who's really a cultural specialist, and you can get, operations and technical intelligence on, say, construction or real estate when you're ready to learn that, from people who really specialize in that in the industry. But you seek out a variety of people. So I'm not saying you need one mentor. I'm saying over time, you need to collect a network of people that have done what you want to do and have done it at different levels and at different depths over different periods of time. And they don't all have to be old gurus, right? It can be somebody who's only one or two steps ahead of you and they want to reach out and bring you along, put you in their boat and help you, show you how to row. So I think that's sort of my advice on how to go about it. But an example for me, I wanted to own a multi brand platform of brands, and the pandemic killed that. Unfortunately, we were on the precipice of getting our first check and launching something like a savory fund or a capital spring or something like that. So I started telling a lot of people that that was my ultimate goal. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to get. And I started getting introductions to people who had been CEOs or COOs or CFOs in those types of environments. And I became really well acquainted, if not close friends, with the likes of Andrew and K. Smith and Sean at K. Smith and Josh at Savory, other people, Jim Bayless at Capital Spring, other friends that you guys know that we all know. That's how I built my network. I just kept telling people, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is where I want things to go. What do you know? Who do you know? And people say, oh, you got to talk to Jim Mises. And I'd sit at a coffee shop in Pasadena, California with Jim Mises, and told him my vision. And he says, I think that's fantastic. I believe you. I think you can achieve this. I want to help you. Here's how I think I can best support you. Here, let's have a call once every 2 weeks or once a month. I will help guide you and give you the next piece of homework, so to speak, and became a very dear mentor and still calls me today and says, hey, we haven't talked in a while. Let's have a chat. Let's see where you're at.
He's
And
great. Jim's
my
great.
gosh, he forces me to pick up the phone, not just me like, hey, what's up? I need some help. Even that happens, but more often than not, he's the one passing down to me saying, knock, knock. I think, you might need a little outside perspective. You want to talk about some things? It's fantastic professional therapy.
That's great. If I'm a manager in a restaurant right now and I'm listening, I mean, you and I meet a lot of those folks. Especially when I was doing my consulting business, I was very much on the conference circuit because you're trying to get to know people, you're building up business, a lot of the stuff Matt does as well. But I'm a manager, and I'm up and coming. I'm an assistant manager or GM. How do you find the people to ask, and then how do you ask? Like, how do you locate somebody? I mean, for me, I watch people that I would wanna emulate in the business. Very younger in my career, I met Karen Stutz along the way. She was one of my supervisors, and for those listening, she's, past, CEO of Applebee's and president and all the things, and then there were other people along the way, the Jeff Melnicks of the world, and I was always very, very focused on taking anything I possibly could take when I saw somebody doing it better than I could and trying to get and asking a million questions. And I used to call myself the leech because I would leech myself onto somebody if I was like, they can do it better. Even as a GM, if I saw somebody getting better results than me, I would go spend time on my own in their restaurant and hang out with them and say, "Okay, what do you do? What do I need to learn here? Because I want to make the money, or I want to get to the next level, or I want to be just as good as you are." And I think you spoke earlier about being vulnerable and showing up really hungry and saying, "I don't know how to do this. Let me learn." A lot of our managers, as both of you know, they stay in their four walls and they don't get that chance to get out. And I was one of those managers and GMs that I would go on my day off and hang out because I was hungry for it and learn who was doing it better than I was. But how do you, Troy, find somebody to AKA leech onto? Because it's also, to your point, not just one person. Might be you want to learn financials, you want because in restaurants you got 20 balls and you got to know marketing, ops, financials, construction, aren't right, aren't all the things. But how do you locate and then how do you ask? Because I do think that there is a fear of people being fear fearless and just saying, "Hey, I need some help with this, or I want to learn this, or can you give me some time?"
Yeah. So, in the bubble and outside the bubble, right? I think you have to have both. I think you need a diverse network of perspective insights. So, in the bubble, I love what you said. Um, no matter where you're at in the store, in your business, you get exposed to the owner, you get exposed to a regional manager, you get exposed to an area manager, you might meet somebody from the corporate office. That is your moment. Okay. Follow them around like a puppy dog, and wait for the moment where they turn around and go, "Can I help you?" Yes, you can. I just want to ask you one question. And then it shows your intent, it shows your hunger, it shows your drive. The other is exactly what you said. Who's doing it better? If you're a GM of a restaurant, assistant manager, shift lead, whatever, head bartender, who's producing better results? Who's doing things creatively? Who's getting who's the buzz about? Meaning not even just dollars and cents and results, but maybe customer feedback or employee scores, right? Employee satisfaction scores. Who's just kind of knocking it out of the park? If it's 2 stores away or 2 states away, get yourself in the room. Go to that store, call that GM, call that regional manager, say, I would just love an hour of your time. Can I ride with you for half a day when you're doing your store visits? Can I come on one store visit with you, etc.? Just absorb, literally carry the bags, like be the bell person, right? Be, be the food runner of their personal life for 5 minutes. Get in the room and then again, absorb, listen, ask thoughtful questions, be very succinct, be very concise. Say, I'm just trying to really understand one aspect of this thing. Just don't try to bite off the entire buffet. Take it one bite at a time. And then that just continues, right? Go outside your network. That might be within your organization, in your company, in your structure. Go outside your organization. How do you do that? It doesn't have to be in the same industry. Outside industry perspective is very valuable. Business lessons can be business lessons. Employer, employee, and leadership lessons don't have to come from within the industry. As a matter of fact, I make it very intentional to try and absorb and go to things, multi-industry conferences and other types of podcasts, other types of business and leadership inputs. I read books that have nothing to do with hospitality because I need that outside perspective. What are they doing in other industries that we might be able to adopt in our industry, right? So go to the Chamber of Commerce events. There's mixers, right? Go to the local business networking events. Look at entrepreneurs, look at executives, etc. Obviously, within the industry, there's an endless number of conferences, and they're not all very expensive. 150 bucks, 200 bucks, 250 bucks. You could go to a regional or a nearby conference and go. If you can only go for a day, go for one day. But get in the room with other people like you. And I'll just tell you at these conferences, it's at all levels, right? From the ultra CEOs of the biggest companies down to the founder of the 3 unit thing, just trying to grow and learn. So you've got to mix it up. But look, LinkedIn, making a comment, a thoughtful comment, or asking a thoughtful question on a post within a LinkedIn, even just a question on somebody else's comment or a comment on somebody else's comment, if you intentionally do that for 30, 45 minutes every day, I do it from 4:30 to 5:30 every morning, somewhere in that window. People ask me, how do you post so much? How are you so active on LinkedIn? Well, in the last month, I haven't been, but generally, it's because I'm up at 4:30 and I can't talk on the phone, talk to my wife, can't record a podcast too early in the morning, and it's still only 7:30 on the East Coast. So I've got an hour or so, and so that's my personal development time, right? It's my time to make comments, ask questions, give thoughtful insights, connect with people, answer the DMs, etc. So, networking environments like that between being on podcasts, absorbing podcasts, commenting on podcasts. You're going to get people that will respond. And then is the minute they engage with you, it's like, click, thanks. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes? Can I get 15 minutes to ask you kind of one burning question I think you might have some insight on? Boom, the network opens, because what happens is the minute you have that conversation, they generally are going to introduce you to somebody else. You're going to say, "Great, thanks for that. That was amazing. I'm taking my notes. Who else do you know that I'm having this other thought, or I want to learn this other thing? Who do you know that might be able to help me with that?" And they'll say, "Oh, you know who's really good at that? Let me introduce you." Right. And then they make the introduction, and then oh, you're off to the races. Right. One leads to another, leads to 10, leads to 20, leads to hundreds.
Love that.
And I think just like listening to this, because I can hear the power and how passionate you both are. And Amy, I've watched your incredible network of people as well. But Troy, how I got introduced to you is actually through Sean Walchef. And I want to say, like, my number one goal this year is to ask for help because people like Sean and Amy and Emily Knight have pushed me to. But I reached out to Sean, didn't know this person through LinkedIn, seems really busy. He's kind of like, what do you want him? Invited him to Canada to speak at an event, and we built a friendship that's built a spider web and just showed the power of simply just asking, hey, would you like to come up and speak? And he said yes. And then Amy, I'll share, Emily Knight's a huge supporter of LEAD and Texas Restaurant Association. My calendar this morning when I woke up was full of meetings based on something she said. And because I asked her for help, something she said on a call that I'm not allowed to be told what it was, but people want to help. And sometimes just get out of our own way and go out and ask. And I'm always amazed at how people like Troy and Amy constantly get back. There's a couple closing questions that I'd love to ask of other tactical actions you would advise for leaders. But before we get to that, Troy, I know you're very passionate about the concept of empathy. And I know we've talked about a concept of mentorship, but I know it's something that's very important to you. Tell us a little bit about why that word, that statement, what it means to you, and why it's important, and how you lead on a daily basis.
Yeah, look, you cannot be an effective leader, and you can't be the most effective leader that is possible if you don't remember what where you came from, how it felt when you were in those shoes, and have an understanding of what your decisions as a leader, what your style, what your communication form is, how that affects other people. And that is really hard to do. It takes effort, it takes time. You have to stop yourself and say, if I do this, or if I say that, or how I say that. By the way, my favorite phrase is not what you do, it's how you do it. It's never what you do. And generally, if it's a bad thing for somebody, how you do it can make it less bad. So that's really about stopping and saying, okay, I need to have this difficult conversation, or I need to change the direction that we're going in, or I need to implement this new policy, process, system, way we're doing something. Stop and think about, if you were them, how would you want to receive that? What questions would you have? When you ask that questions, what way would you like that answer to be delivered? In other words, if they ask why, not because I said so, right? This is not the end of the let's not go to that. Let's get away from that kind of interaction. So, be empathetic to their needs. And I would just say the absolute best way to live this in real life is stakeholder involvement. When you are faced with making a decision, or you are tasked with implementing a process, a system, a technology, a new product, whatever that is, or changing how something has always been done to the new thing, go have the conversation with all the people that that's going to touch, including the customer, right? Owners, operators, CEOs, I don't care who you are, you're in a bubble. Get out of the damn bubble. Get out of the glass house. Get out in the field. Once you're out in the field, don't just talk to the employees, talk to all the employees. Don't talk to just the GMs or the regional managers. Talk to the damn dishwasher, and talk to the food runner, and talk to the hostess. And by the way, while you're there, who are the regular customers that are most bought into your brand and most supportive of your business? Pull them aside and say, hey, can I buy you lunch, or can I get you a free milkshake? I need 5 minutes. I'd just love to run an idea by you. We're thinking about doing this. Get stakeholder involvement, because if you do, A, you will inherently have empathy because you'll be hearing their perspective along the way. And B, you will have more information and more extended experience and perspective to do a better job than you would have done had you not done that. But in simple terms, empathy in isolation is really difficult. Just stopping yourself and saying, before I do this, before I say this, before we go down this road, how is that? That's really hard to do. You're just trying to get it done. You've been tasked with something, you have a need, a process. It's hard to stop yourself and have that level of self awareness. What's easier is to say, my process is always going to include stakeholder insight, stakeholder feedback, whether that's a written survey, email survey, Slack survey. Hey guys, send me one TikTok per person to teach me about this or whatever that is. Get that outside stakeholder involvement and perspective. And basically, you'll have a really hard time not being empathetic in that environment.
Mm. Well said.
And there's one thing that I always look at is just success leaves clues. And I think there's something I've always admired about Troy and Amy as well is I don't think it's been easy, right? Remember where we came from. Something that I'll take from that last piece. There's a little bit of scrappiness. When it comes to that scrappy side for the leaders out there, we've talked about mentorship, reaching out, but just as we look to close out the episode, Troy, what's one thing that you would advise? Um, and Amy, I'd love to hear from you on the topic as well. That a leader focus on for themselves. Amy's
You have
often
to answer it yourself too.
I'll come back around and let you go.
Go ahead, Amy.
We were thinking like if there's a leader
Hey,
standing there now saying, okay, I get the mentorship side, but the kind of you sitting with you versus you motivating you. I've watched Amy really inspire people by saying you got to own your side of this. What's one thing you tell a leader to focus on for themselves right now or action to take?
go ahead, Amy.
Develop yourself and not put in the hands of anybody else and drive your own bus. So, I agree with what something Troy said earlier, amongst all the other things, that you have to be clear with your supervisor and or your organization and or your peers set in the industry of where you want to go so they're aware so they can help you and say good things about you when you're not in the room and advocate for you, but you also have to show humility and decide what you need to develop on and ask for feedback and be able to take it. And so out of that should come a really strong development plan. Hence is where the mentorship comes in. And there's not just, I think a lot of people, I shared this on another podcast that are sitting across from a group of young women a couple of months ago and asked them if they all had mentors. And I was sitting next to one of mine, and they all said they didn't have one. And I thought, that's why you're stuck. You're all stuck in these roles. And some people are happy doing that. That's okay. We need soldiers, we need those folks in business, but you also miss your potential, and so I think you got to focus on your own development and drive it, and you have to make space for it. I mean, Troy gets up at 4:30. He's got a baby coming in, though I don't know how long that's going to last for his LinkedIn post. But I do think I set aside an hour, whether it's to listen to a podcast or read up on a book or watch a video or something on leadership. Do I always agree with them? No, but I also learn what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And I think you just it's all about your own development because as Troy opened it up earlier, you don't know what you don't know, and I still don't know a lot of things, and I probably won't for a long time, but I think as I continuously learn and focus on my development and ask the right people, I'll get the right knowledge.
Yeah,
Troy?
I'll say, try to focus on mastering the things you are least good at, right? Um, sit in your car for 5 to 10 minutes before going in to work and ask yourself, what is something I can work on today? What is something I can try? What is something I can focus on getting better at today? The Japanese have a saying called kaizen, and kaizen is the idea of making consistent incremental steps towards improvement every day. It's essentially the goal to improve by 1% at something every day because it's the idea of,
Mm,
biting off a mountain one pebble at a time, right? How do you move a mountain? One rock at a time. So don't worry about the giant thing. Ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do today? What is the one area I can focus on? And I had a stint in sales. Most people know this. I took a little sidetrack. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I went to Procter and Gamble for 5.5 years, and I got a world class education in leadership and professionalism and all kinds of things. And I started off in sales, and my trick was to sit in the car for get to the sales call 10 minutes early, sit in the car silent, and practice in my head my new approach. I'm going to walk in that door. I've never been here before. How am I going to get past this gatekeeper? How am I going to get past this receptionist, this doctor's office? Or I have the appointment. I'm going to be in the room with the doctor. How do I want to try and approach this? Right? What do I know? What am I going to do differently this time to get a little bit better? Be a better listener, interrupt them less, use less whatever it is. I wanted to work on very micro niche little moments of improvement. If you do that, you don't have to tell anybody you're doing it. It will be seen, it will be experienced, it will be felt and understood. People will look at you and go, wow, this person's really invested in themselves. They are making an effort. We are seeing their progress. Let me have a chat and see what else. How can I help? People want to help people who want to be helped, and you don't always have to send up the flag and set off the flares. Sometimes your actions speak louder than words. So I would really, to the point of self, Amy, is in that moment, take the time and have it sort of systematize it. You gotta, it's my 4:30 in the morning. It's your look in the mirror, it's your affirmations, it's reading one page of the employee manual or the operations manual or the recipe guide before you walk in the store so you feel more informed and educated for this shift than you did the last one. That's really the best piece of advice.
Love it. Matt, what about you? Close this up, boss.
I'll try to be quick with this one, but one thing I try to do when we're in sessions to agitate people's thought is to say that we spend more time planning our vacation than we do our future. But recently I was starting with a new client, 500 locations, adding 150 next year. Really exciting call. And I said, what matters most right now? And the room went silent. And I went, oh crap. And they couldn't answer the question. And it turned into quite the dialogue of what was the biggest priority. But I sat in my car, as Troy said, leaving that. It said, what is my compelling future for 26? And I realized at that point, although I do this work, I had to go back and reset it and be absolutely clear about what my intention and outcome is. I encourage you to be selfish, take the time for yourself, define it, because I know Troy knows his, I know Amy knows hers, and I know mine, and that's going to drive our daily action. So that from my side is take the time for yourself and plan out your future. No one's going to do it better or give it the attention until you do it yourself, and then others can support. Um, that's my little bit of my little tip, Amy. But Amy, before we go today, lead KC coming up.
Lead KC is March 24th. And chicken and pickles during our party for us. And then we'll be sending out dates for DC. Looks like we're booking San Diego, which is exciting. That one's hot off the press. Yeah, and Boston, Easy Cater is going to help partner with Lead and throw the next Lead event. So mark your calendars if you want to come out for a conference and have a couple cocktails and get access to people like Troy. It's going to be a good time. And Matt, who's
Oh,
teaching development, which is the
oh,
best.
well, thank you, Troy. Thank you, Amy. That was an incredible episode, not only with the motivation, but the tactics. And I hope that those get out there and take action for themselves.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Amy. It was great.
Thank you, Troy, Mateo.